No doubt about that.
I've got this. I think you actually believe that, don't you? You're pretty confident about that.
Well, absolutely. I was surprised it didn't come out in this run of the Strengths Finder, but the self-assurance used to be in my top five. It's probably still in my top six.
It is in your top six. It's
I don't
not.
know. I
Yeah, it's
I
number
actually
six.
just looked at the stuff that you sent, which is the top five.
Yeah, it's number six. I got it in front of me.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was just guessing, but I was really assured that it's the case.
So there you go. You've got it, man. You've got it. You've got it in spades. So I've got a few. I've got a few prepared questions
Hmm.
for you, my friend. And by the way, thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
It's a good. It's a very very. It's kind of. It's just. We're all doing LinkedIn posts, aren't we? And I find that people like video. They like short video clips. Nothing too polished. Something that doesn't look like it's come out of a studio, sort of authentic. So, here we are today talking strengths with Martin Zeman. Martin, thank you for taking the time today. I appreciate you joining the call.
My pleasure. Hi, Kevin.
And yeah, what I wanted to do actually was to go through some of your top strengths to see how they relate to you in your working life. So you've got your top five strengths report, the Strengths Insight report in front of you. Was there anything in there that you pulled out which we might use as a starting point for a conversation?
Yeah, well, maybe I wonder whether it would be good to kind of review them all and
Mm.
say which ones they are. So it is responsibility,
Uh-huh.
relator, strategic, analytical, and ideation.
Yep.
And as I was reading through them, actually, like four of them seemed very similar to each other. The strategic, analytical, ideation, and even the relator, I kind of feel like they are all very connected and very
Hmm.
similar and very much speak of who I am or who I feel I am. The one that stood out for me actually when I did it was responsibility,
Yeah.
and it
Interesting.
was a strength that I never actually realized I had. I never saw it as a strength. I never actually acknowledged that this is something that I'm doing, and only after I've done the strength finder, I I saw responsibility, and it came on top. It came like number one thing. I thought, oh, well, that's strange. And I looked back at my life, and I realized actually, yeah, like there is a lot of situations and occasions that I actually do behave very responsibly, or very, I don't know, like responsibility is my main driver. Yeah. So for example, like at school, I would be, or when we would go out to a pub, I would be always the last one to stay in the pub, but not necessarily because I would like to drink. I just like felt responsible for everyone,
Oh,
just make
right.
sure they get home safely.
Yeah.
Or in my sports team, when we were going to lose one of our key players in a key position, the coach approached me and asked me, "Would you take on that position?" And I thought, "Yeah, of course. Like, if there's no one else to do that job, I will do it. If there's no one else, I will step in." Same at work when I felt like there's no one else who would see a project through conclusion, who would feel the ownership and accountability for a project. I would just take it on because I would feel someone needs to do it, and if there's no one else, it needs to be me. So I behaved that way, but unconsciously. And since I've done the Strength Finder, I really took it to the new level, and I realized this is a great strength to utilize and recognize. And where other people might shy away from responsibility, I don't mind it. I enjoy it, and I enjoy the power of being in control. So now I seek out these opportunities even more. So when there's an opportunity to do something, or we are looking for a leader, we are looking for someone who would take the ownership, I step in, and I do it naturally, but I also recognize it, and I, yeah, take the lead in a way without questioning whether I should or not. Which actually it has got its downsides as well, because I sometimes may say yes to things that I probably shouldn't, and I take on more than I should. So I'm in a process of catching myself before I commit to anything and say, is this really aligned with my long-term goals? Do I have the capacity to do this at the moment? And if I don't, I say no. And it's been great, big breakthrough for me in the recent months, half a year, to learn to say no to things which I wasn't able to do before.
Oh, you described that very well. Thank you for that. I'm sorry that I interrupted you right at the beginning. Otherwise, we probably could have used the whole 5 minutes.
No, but we still can. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great
You
learning
know,
process
like it,
for me.
bro.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was very, very good. So, it's in the description of responsibility, Martin. It says people who are talented in in the responsibility theme take psychological ownership of what they say they will do. They are committed to stable values such as honesty and loyalty. Is that when you look at values,
Yeah,
are they very
that's
important to you? Values?
yeah, absolutely. I, as you said, like the honesty and loyalty, that's something extremely close to me. I I had this experience early in my life. I was like 20, so halfway through my life, where I was using white lies quite a bit with no reason. Just like someone would tell me something, and I would feel like they didn't want necessarily to hear the right answer or the truthful answer, and I just like make something up, like getting late to a meeting, and I would just say, oh yeah, well it's traffic, or saying no to someone's birthday because I just didn't feel like going, and I'll just make something up. And then I had this situation when I realized how stupid it was to make lies and just trying to keep them all in my head. And I decided at one moment in my life that I will no longer be lying at all or not making stuff up. And it really helps me align with my values of the honesty and truthfulness, when I just like didn't have to keep things in my head. I just went with whatever was the truth. And I've had so much fun and enjoyed it so much more ever since. So yeah, it's definitely super important.
I think values are like a lighthouse. They guide you, and they should be stable and consistent, and they save a lot of time and emotional anguish, actually, because you're right. You shouldn't have to think. Once you know your values, they shouldn't change. So regardless of what you're offered, what bribes or inducements or incentives you're offered, you should stick to them, shouldn't you?
Yeah, for me, the values, I don't have like a clear list of my values. Like I can definitely write them down. Spend half an hour and just think, okay, what are my key values, and I'm able to get that right. Where I really feel it makes a difference is when I step outside my values, so I'm not in line with my values, and feeling that pain of that. So again, I've done that in a work environment before, when I crossed my boundaries, my values, and it just hurt so much. I felt, oh, what's wrong? And then when I analyzed it and looked at what's the cause of the issue, I pinpointed the value that's really close to my heart and it's really important for me, and then helps me then analyze, okay, well, what have I done? What can I do differently, or what do I do in the future in order to avoid this pain? So yeah, I think it's really very much ingrained in me, the values, as I believe in everyone else. And I think it's the pain that we feel that is the signal for, okay, over here you stepped over something. You should behave differently next time in order to be yourself.
And you've said that you recognise that you've perhaps taken on commitments that you couldn't always maintain because you feel a sense of responsibility, and you don't like to say no. You like to step in and help where people need help, don't you?
Exactly. To give you one example, I joined this filmmaking meetup because I was working for a tech media company, and we needed to connect with filmmakers. So I joined this group, and I was really inspired. A lot of creatives, they did what they wanted to do, and there were about 3 leaders of the group. And I wanted to help them. I thought, okay, well, they could take it to the next level. So I offered my help as a mentor, and they sort of started to coach them. And then a few months in, a couple of the organizers, they dropped off. They left the group, and it was only one left who didn't feel strong enough to actually lead the whole group. And I just felt I felt so responsible for the whole group. If it was just her, the group would disband. So I said, okay, well, I will co-lead it with you. And I did. I did step in, despite the fact that it wasn't necessarily my thing. I wasn't a filmmaker myself. I wasn't very passionate about it. I was passionate about other people doing what they love. But from the sense of responsibility, I took the role on. And later on, I realized actually it doesn't no longer fit into my life, and I shouldn't have invest my resources into it. So I tried to get out of it, and I found someone else who would organize it, who would run it. But when I saw that's not quite working, I came back and tried to save the group.
Right.
But I actually didn't succeed. But it was a great lesson. Thinking, yeah, I overcommitted, and that was the problem. Rather than trying to leave. I think trying to leave was the right choice. Overcommitting at the beginning was quite clear, and I should have tried to solve it differently. So now I'm much more careful about what I invest my time into.
And how does responsibility work with Relator then? Relator is all about close relationships with others.
Yeah, I was actually a bit surprised about the Relator, and particularly the close relationships, because I personally feel like I prefer a lot of relationships that are kind of loose, yeah. But maybe the closeness comes from the meaningful relationship. So when I connect with person, I don't really do chit chat. I want to know who they are inside, and connect on a different level. And then for that half an hour is often enough to understand them. But then I like to have a wide network of people who I know just well enough. But then potentially probably have a small group of people that I'm really connected to quite deeply, spend a lot of time with. In which case, yeah, I think that relates.
Do you have quite a firm division between your social life and your private life, if you like? So you've got a small circle of really good friends.
No, I mix everything up together. I love it the most when people from all over my life come together and they click. And necessarily all the people, but the people who are on a similar makeup as I am. I love it. Like I started to celebrate my birthday for this very reason, because I love it when people come together. And so I invite my friends from sports. I invite my friends from Toastmasters and other activities that I do. I invite my work colleagues. And the people who come, they want to have fun, and they do have fun because they are the same people as everyone else. So I connect with the like-minded people, but I'll connect with them everywhere in my life.
Oh, very good. Okay. Yeah, all over. That's interesting. It's not entirely what I expected, actually. I wonder how you're doing that. It must be one of your other strengths, which enables you to do that. We'll have to try and figure that one out. It's in here somewhere. And strategic. So, strategic says that strategics are map navigators, really. You'd be the right guy if you were on an outward bound course somewhere to plot a vision of how to get to where you're going to get to. And your report says you yearn to improve things about yourself, other people or situations. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. Yeah, all the time I'm thinking, how could we improve this? If there is a challenge, perfect. What can we learn from it? How can we make it better? What are the options? I naturally see all the possibilities that we can tackle issues with, and I go straight into the analytics mode and resolution mode. This is quite an interesting one. While I might be really strong in the strategic thinking and the solutions architecture or design, I struggle in the implementation of these strategies. And in the past, I thought it's a massive weakness, so I can't actually get stuff done. And I thought I need to force myself to get better at implementation. And as I've done Strength Finder and I've done other frameworks, and as I got to know myself better, I realized actually this is as it is, right? Like people have got strengths, they have got weaknesses. And if we focus on our strengths and then we delegate our weaknesses, then we can make much more bigger impact. So with the strategic strength in mind, I realized I'm best positioned next to an amazing executors, people like managing directors, CEOs, people who who are incredible in executing stuff and managing others. And I see myself as a multiplier for these people, so I can help them devise the best strategy. I'm able to analyze the situations and the potential influences. And together we create a strategic plan that they can then implement just like this, because that's their strength. And once they know where they are going, what the map is, they can just make it happen. I can't do that, but I acknowledge it in myself. So I'm not even trying to. I just aim to find the best people in the execution that can then take my strategy and actually make it happen. So that's been incredibly freeing, because I stopped worrying about, okay, I'm not perfect, I'm not great at making stuff done or seeing things to conclusion. I just focus on what I'm really good at, and that's drawing that strategic map and providing a solution.
That was lovely, actually. Thank you for that. You spoke to two things in my mind. One was the power of partnerships. In fact, you and I would be a good. I suppose maybe one of the reasons why we seem to get on, because you look at my strengths; they're very different to yours. I've got achiever in my top 5, and I'm strategic planning nowhere. I can't read maps. I've got no idea. I always need someone to hold my hand when we get lost. I mean, thank God for sat nav. Otherwise I never used to get anywhere in the old days unless I left 2 days early. So we're perfect from that point of view. And also the nature of teamwork. So there is this fallacy that what we want to be successful is well-rounded teams. In fact, we don't. We want... Actually, sorry, let me rephrase that. We do want well-rounded teams. We don't want well-rounded people.
Yeah. Totally.
Because well-rounded people are average at everything and not much good at anything. So what you really want is people that are quite spiky. So the fact that you can pull out these top talents and say, this is what I'm really good at, that's the right focus.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it's a fallacy of a well-rounded person. And I think we are pushing a lot of people to aim for that or strive for that.
Yeah.
But I believe wholeheartedly that everyone has got their strengths. It's just we tell people to suppress those strengths and then just focus on the weaknesses just to level it up. And that's the problem. Like not enough people know that they should be just focusing on the strengths. And I had no idea. I always thought like, okay, focus on the weaknesses, and that way, you will eliminate the biggest issues. Which to a degree, it's not a bad strategy, like to do something with the weaknesses. But definitely focusing more on strengths is where the biggest value is created.
Yeah, you should be aware of your weaknesses, and you obviously are aware of your weaknesses, and then realise that, frankly, remediating against weaknesses doesn't make you a stronger person. And I think there is this sort of fallacy again with a lot of success literature that we can be anything we want to be. That's not true, actually. We could be, most people can be average at most things if they work really hard at it. But actually, Do you want to be average? Wouldn't you be better off focusing on what you're good at? That's really the key behind it.
But at the same time, I'm kind of like a big proponent of 80-20 rule. So even if I've got a very painful weakness, I believe there is quite a small amount of effort I can invest in to make it good enough, or maybe average, or maybe below average, but better than it is. So for example, like public speaking, like in the past I wasn't able to speak one-on-one. I really struggled to communicate my ideas, and I thought it's not my strength, but I knew that I can work on it and make it good enough. And I joined Toastmasters, and over the time I became good enough. I became confident in speaking, communicating. People started to get what I mean. And I would say I'm nowhere near like an expert, or I wouldn't still call it a strength, but I feel I'm good enough. I'm average, maybe above average even. So I've taken the weakness and I kind of developed it a bit, because I recognized it's too painful a weakness, something that I can't easily delegate. Yeah, I could get people to speak on my behalf, but speaking is one of the things that everyone needs to do. So something I can't delegate, okay, let's make it good enough, invest just enough time to get me to the good position, and then go back to focus on the strengths.
Oh, you make another really good point there. So let's drill into that for a second. Yes, you're right. Because you're self-employed, and running your own business, there are certain things that you have to be able to do, even though you're not necessarily really ever going to be great at them, right? So you can get to a level of competence, and it's worth investing time to do that if it's important enough. And I agree with you that it is important enough. But also, public speaking is not a strength; it's a skill.
Right.
So it's a skill that derives from a strength called communication and influence. Is in that influencing domain, which is not in your top 5 actually. So I think you've got to go down into your top 10 to find those. But what you've done, you've leveraged something else in your top 5 or your top 10 in order to help you to do that. And I think that's a really good example. Yeah, skills we can acquire. And you probably will never be the best public speaker, but that's fine. You don't need to be. You need to be competent. And because you're thoughtful and diligent and you work hard at it, you'll achieve that. If you haven't already.
That's exactly spot on. Yeah, I need to be competent enough.
Yeah. But I think the thing about public speaking that always strikes me, there are natural public speakers, and there are people that are not. But actually, in your case, I suspect that it's a combination of content, style, and delivery that makes a good public speaker. I think you'd put a lot more good quality, thoughtful content into your presentation.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of two minds. I don't really feel there are natural public speakers. There are people who have got more experience. So if you speak from early age, since you are one and you speak nonstop for the next 30, 50 years, you'll be good at speaking. Yeah, I was the opposite. I had a 1-year older brother, so he was the talker and I was the listener. I became really, really good at listening, but I couldn't speak. And it wasn't just that I learned to speak at 1 year of age. I just constantly, I spent more time listening than talking, so I didn't acquire that experience.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right. And listening is a much underrated skill. To be honest, really listening to somebody is a great, one of the greatest gifts that you can give people is to really listen to them.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a difficult one to acquire. Especially, you can't really practice it on your own.
No, you can't. You can't. So what else have we got in here then? What did we talked about analytical actually. You mentioned that a couple of times. Your profile suggests someone who is deeply thoughtful. Does that sum you up?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an analyst. That's who I am. That's me. It's interesting. I'm a very analytical, left brain, logical person because that's how I grew up. It's even the environment, the family that I grew up in. And again, I really like the strengths, to look at the strengths and the weaknesses associated with it, or the downsides of those strengths. So because I'm so strong in the logical side, I am quite inexperienced in the emotional side. So I pretty much, I feel in the first 30 years of my life, I haven't really felt emotions. And when I discovered them, I thought, wow, this is a whole new world that I can live in. I see people do with life, the experiencing of life itself. So that doesn't come naturally to me. So I usually live life in my left brain, in my head, just constantly thinking a lot about the future, and now learning a bit more mindfulness and recognizing the emotions and feeling the emotions. But interesting, negative emotion, something doesn't go as well as it can. I jump into my left brain to analyze it through, and just really write down, how do I feel? Why do I feel this way? What has caused it? And it really helps me to get over the emotions, or get over the negative emotions, and process them in a way that I feel, okay, yeah, I know, I accept the signal of the emotion, and I know why I feel that way, and I know what I can do about it. So it really helps me get in control. But I use analytical brain to respond to emotions, which I'm not sure whether it's the right thing or not the right thing, but and it helps me in my life.
So have people accused you of being a bit cold emotionally then?
Not in my face, really. No. I don't know. I feel the ability to listen kind of softens it a lot.
Hmm.
Because when you listen to people, they feel they feel listened to.
That's right.
And I am quite empathetic, which is, I find it quite strange that I don't really feel that much emotions, but I can easily put myself into someone else's shoes. So I know how they might be able to think. They might be able to feel or think from their position. I don't necessarily feel it myself. It's a bit strange.
Yeah, you mean so you feel you sense other people's feelings more than you sense your own.
Yeah, but maybe it's more like I feel other people's thoughts, but in other people, the thoughts and the feelings might often kind of overlap.
Yes.
Or the thoughts are driven by the feelings.
Yeah, I'm never quite sure whether. Yeah, I'm never quite sure whether thoughts are driven by feelings or feelings are driven by thoughts.
I think the feelings come first, but then in some people, the distinction is probably there is a bigger gap in between. With some people, it might be more overlapped, I would say.
We try and rationalize it, don't we? Quite often, the feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we always do, and this is a great thing about brain. You know, it will always give us the justification for whatever we feel.
Yes. Yeah, it will. So, what about ideation then? Now, we didn't talk about that.
But for me, maybe this is it. Maybe for me, yeah.
I was going to say ideation. That's a creative kind of talent to me. Fascinated by ideas, able to find connections between seemingly disparate phenomena. Can you give me any examples of that? What ideas have you come up with recently?
Well, I thought, if we take a light bulb and make make light out of nowhere. I really like ideation. I mentor entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I've got a number of masterminds that I run. And I like being a coach or a mentor. But a lot of people, they say, you know, mentors should never actually give any guidance. They should keep asking questions and let the mentee to figure out what the right answer is. And I totally get that. I see how it can be very useful, especially for someone like me. I really like it when I figure things out for myself. But when I mentor, I just feel a bit impatient, or I see sometimes I've got an idea and I wonder maybe this would be a solution for the problem at hand. Rather than me trying to get people to figure this particular idea, I just say it, you know, like this is what I thought, you know, take it or leave it. I don't mind. I don't even mind like if the idea is attributed to me or not, but you know, it just saves time. So I like to be throwing ideas with basically driven, ambitious entrepreneurs, business people particularly, but anyone really, to understand what their problem is and not just brainstorm what the potential solutions could be. And it's beautiful to brainstorm when I throw something in and they say, oh yeah, I've tried that, it didn't work, or they feel, oh yeah, that's a great idea, or how about this, and they develop that further, or they work on it. And what I like the most is actually when people take the idea and implement it. It just gives me such a emotional rush. I just feel so happy, and I don't care really like that the idea came from me. It didn't really, and maybe it just like materialized somewhere in the air. But I just love unlocking people, and these ideas are key to do that. So some of the people I have got a mastermind with, they are the best entrepreneurs I've ever seen, and sometimes they just I throw in an idea and they're like, oh, that's a brilliant idea, and then in the next week they have implemented it. It's beautiful.
So when you say you love unlocking people,
Mm-hmm.
what does that
unlocking
mean?
the potential. Yeah.
The potential in somebody, right? That's why you like the coaching and the mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
Who have you unlocked recently? And without names, obviously, but you know, I mean, success stories that you've had.
Yeah, I've got a couple of number of masterminds one-on-one, and so we meet up once a week and discuss our businesses, what our wins, lessons learned, challenges are, and then we just brainstorm the challenge. And a friend of mine, he's starting a new business, He's coming from a corporate world, but he's really an entrepreneur deep inside. And yeah, he's developing this new future business. And yeah, I just occasionally, last week, I basically threw in an idea, and I will not go into the detail what the idea was, but I mentioned the idea, and he was like, oh, that's brilliant. And he just like, I need to write this down. And I mentioned another one and just like wrote it down. And I know that, next week when we meet, that idea will be implemented, or he will be already on the way to get it implemented. I feel for me, I think it again goes to my upbringing in a way. When I was listening to my brother, he was full of ideas, and I often position myself into the opposite position. So he would go like one way, and then I would be the devil's advocate in a way, just trying to say, okay, well, how about this or how about that? And oftentimes these would be ideas that the other person wouldn't have seen because they are just so focused on their path, so pushing for that. So there are things they don't even consider, they're outside of their vision. It's probably too generic, I don't know.
No, I don't think it is. It's interesting because you do have a vision of where you want to go. Your strategic gives you this forward looking. You've got futuristic, I think, in your top 10 as well. So you do see the future, and then the ideation helps you to come up with different ideas as to how it might look.
Yeah.
But do you actually? I mean, do you have a map for your own life? I mean, have you got specific goals? Achievements that you need to tick off and stuff?
It's a very good question. It's often asked, like we don't do it for ourselves enough. But
I think the cobbler's children, have you heard that one? The cobbler's children, always have the worst shoes in town.
But I'm actively aware of it, and I'm working on it. I have discovered my future, if you will, fairly recently. I discovered it really 6 months ago, but it developed and crystallized over the time. And last month it was a massive step forward. And actually this week I'm going to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within program.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Which that's all about actually understanding and getting rid of our pains and obstacles, and then outlining the future. So I did a little bit of preparation for that. But I'm also, letting Tony to do a bit of work himself to help.
So are you going to be walking on hot coals?
Oh yeah, I'm not too fast about that. I'm more excited about meeting other people, but also discovering and laying out in detail the future vision for myself, which I've now got. And in the last few days, I actually felt it very strongly, as if it was the reality. I know who I am, a few years from now, and it's super exciting. It gives me the guiding light. I know which project I should say no to, which projects I need to say yes to, and what I need to seek out in terms of people, in terms of opportunities. How do I need to behave? Who do I need to become in order to achieve that goal? So I'm a big fan of understanding this. I hadn't had that in the past, but now I know how powerful it is, so I'll make sure that I do have it.
When is that course then? When's that going to be?
Starts on Thursday, goes till Sunday.
And you're going? Where are you going for that then? Is there?
It's London, but at Excel.
So Tony Robbins is presenting that himself, is he?
Yeah, he does usually 2 days out of the 4.
Right. Great. But so that's a big investment you've made.
1,000 people are coming.
Yeah. Of course.
Event. A lot of dancing, a lot of high-fiving, a lot of hugging.
Yeah. How will you be with the hugging and the high-fiving? That isn't your style.
I love it now.
Really?
It was style. If you go 5 years back, definitely not. Maybe even 4 years back, I had no emotions at all. But then I discovered them, and actually, one of my closest friends, one of my best friends, he's a musician, and he was really my mentor, my guide into the emotional side of things. Before I met him, anyone I would meet, I would maybe do a handshake. That would be kind of like my utmost limit of human interaction and time. And he was a hugger, right? So he would come and he would just hug me. I was just like, oh yeah, this is interesting. And I would be really awkward at the beginning, like I don't know how to hug. Is it too long? Enough. Uh, but then gradually I just fell into it, and now I'm the hugger. When I meet ladies, I just kiss them on the cheek, like naturally, just like not. I don't even think about it, and it became such a habit that when I go back home, I've got a best friend in Czech Republic. So I went to see him, and I was like, "Yeah, hi, let's have a hug." And he was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot." And then we shook hands, and the next time I came to back home, he came and he came to hug me, which was really nice. But I thought, oh, I remembered, he wants to shake hands, so I came for a handshake. But now we are in sync on the hugging. So yeah, I love it. And actually, uh, speaking of knowing ourselves, the five languages of love, that's been another great framework that helped me a lot to understand myself. And actually, touch is my top language of love. So makes sense for me to actually enjoy hugging and high-fiving and nudging people and punching. I don't like punching people. People like punching me for some reason. I don't know why.
Right.
Especially women, they just keep
Really?
punching me. And it's weird, It's if it was one, it would be an exception, but it seems to be more of a rule. Maybe something.
Bizarre.
Do
How
you have an
bizarre.
answer for that?
No, I don't have an answer, but I wonder. That's a strange one. That is a very strange one. So, of these, I'm really interested actually in you getting in touch with your emotions, because you're right. Your strengths report would suggest someone who is, very analytical, very thoughtful, not the most emotional person. Do you think that you've deliberately used any of these strengths to help you to get in touch with your emotions? Can you see any tie back to that, or is it just something else altogether?
Yeah, absolutely. I use the analytical all the time. So for me, making sense of emotions is actually through the analysis of them.
Mm,
So I can feel now more than before. Well, that's actually the whole sentence. I can feel now more than I could before, and I use the analytical brain to understand why I feel that way,
yeah.
how I really feel, and what helps me is basically just write it down, just do like a brain dump, and keep asking myself questions and answering those questions. So that helps me a lot. I also feel like I particularly found it useful when it's the negative emotions. Um, but yeah, maybe, and I wish I was more in touch with my emotions and kind of like use them more, especially feeling in the now. That's something I could do better.
Being in the present moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that, I mean, is that because your head's whirring with ideas and thoughts of the future?
Yes.
Yeah,
Non-stop almost.
yeah. Be a great gift. Have you read The Power of Now?
I think I did, but it might have been a while, and I forgot what was the main message. Maybe I didn't then.
Yeah, maybe you didn't. You should read that. It's a great book.
I'll read
Um,
it. I'll listen to it.
It's but yeah, yeah. There's an audio. There's a lot of audio content. There'll be an audio book. Eckhart Tolle. He's a German spiritual philosopher, I suppose.
Mm.
Stroke psychoanalyst. Really interesting guy. But you've helped me enormously. Now I think this has been such an interesting conversation. The way you've tied all this together, because yeah, I hadn't even thought of how you can use analytical to get in touch with your emotions. But of course, we talk about psychoanalysis. You've kind of done that. I think you've used your responsibility. You take responsibility for yourself. You look after yourself emotionally, and you've used your other talents to help you to do that. So,
I think that's actually a very good point. Yeah, like I see a lot of people, they don't take responsibility for their own life,
hmm,
but for me that never was the case, and I find it extremely empowering. Yeah, I don't rely on any external causes. Uh, I for probably for this reason I kind of struggle maybe with religion a bit, just to give away control
hmm.
to the god, or at workplace to the managers. I just feel I want to be in control. I trust myself, and I know I can change my life. I can turn it around, and I take the responsibility. Yeah, that's a good point.
The other thing that I think is fascinating is that it seems to me you're to some extent living your life backwards. I've got this image in my mind that when you were a kid, you kind of described this. People always said, he's old before his time, Martin. He's quite grown up. And you were taking responsibility for people when you were quite young. And now, and not having as much fun as maybe you should have had. And now you seem to be having a lot more fun. So you're a bit like Benjamin Button. You're living your life backwards.
Yeah, it's spot on. I felt like since I was 15, I felt like 40-year-old.
Yeah.
And then when I got 30 or 32, I separated with my wife, and that's been a new life for me. I just felt reborn, renewed, and my age got from 40 to 20, and I started to live actually the age I've never lived before.
Yeah.
And I had so much fun. I discovered a lot of people. I connected with people who were more like-minded to me. I met a lot of entrepreneurs. And I really started to discover myself. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And now I'm having lots of fun, kind of like somewhere in between. I now feel I might be my age.
Yeah, I think so. Why don't we just finish with a quick commercial for you and see if we can tie that back into your strengths then. If you can tell me about the business that you run, the work that you do, and see if we can tie that in with how you use your strengths in that kind of work. Give me the commercial.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I help interim managing directors of private equity-backed businesses to get insight into their business. Yeah, I primarily focus on analyzing the marketing and sales funnels, sales engines, to pinpoint what is the problem in the sales engine, what is not working, and what could you do about it. And the problem that I'm addressing is often, as an interim director, you come to a business and you've got loads of questions, and your goal is to actually increase the value of the business within the next year as soon as possible, really. Yeah, but you know that in 3-4 years' time, you'll be selling the business again. And you've got all these questions, but you are not getting the right answers from the business, or not reliable answers. Yeah, especially it is especially painful when you ask your sales team, why did we miss our sales target? And they give you an answer, and you know that they just made it up on the spot, or it was the last thing that they remembered from a sales call. So you can't really act on it. So I help them give these insights, really detailed insight that they can pinpoint it. And again, this comes to probably the strategic strength. Yeah, I can really analyze, strategic and analytical. Yeah? I can analyze what the issue is. I can outline what the strategy should be. And then I need someone to take it and implement it. And that's who the managing directors usually are. Yeah, they are the entrepreneurs, they are the problem solvers, they are the executors. Yeah, so they can take it and then implement that solution. And that's really the synergies that seems to be working really well for me. And again, I learned this through experience by working with other business leaders when they benefited greatly from the insights I provided them with. Yeah, but the insights alone are worthless without the implementation. But vice versa, the implementation or loads of action is worthless unless you are walking in the right direction. So it's a really good synergy. And I see myself as a multiplier for these CEOs, for these managing directors, because they can do so much value. But if they can do it faster, or if they can do it better, their impact will be much bigger.
Oh, nice. Very good. Thank you very much. That brings us right up to 11 o'clock. So
perfect.
We've been, that which was the time we said we would expire this call. It's been a pleasure listening to you. You've really articulated this very clearly. I feel that you live your strengths, actually.
I do, and it's brilliant to know myself. I feel it really helps, and that's kind of like the journey I'm continuing on. How can I get to know myself better? And I would definitely highly recommend to everyone to do their strengths finders and find out who they are, and then focus on the strengths. Because if they do that, they can make so much more value. They can really fulfill their potential, and they will feel better because they will not try to work on their weaknesses that are not what they should be focusing on.
You bet.
I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I'm still hoping. I'm sure you and I will find some opportunities to work together and use our complementary strengths as a powerful partnership. But I think we've done that today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Great call.
Hey, mate, I absolutely really enjoyed it, Martin, myself. What I'll do is I I'll cut a few bits of this on Thursday probably. I've got some time, and I will send them over to you in some way that you can have a look at them. So I just what I normally do with this, it's all been really useful. I'm just sort of digest it for a little bit, and then I'll run the clips that I've recorded, and we'll review it before I post it up on Monday next week.
Awesome.
You have a good day.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.